Assalamualaikum to Sasaki and my classmates. Today we from Group 3 Vietnam and Australia we presentation case studies 99 Speedmart. 99 Speedmart is a Malaysian convenience store and is one of the largest mini market chains in the country. It was founded by Lee Tiam Wah in 1987 as a traditional grocery store in Kelang, Selangor. The grocery store that marked the beginning of Lee Tiam Wah's career in the grocery store sector, namely Hiap Hoi Supermarket, continues to grow as a result of his efforts. In an effort to develop a chain store, it opened its first store in 1992 in Kelang Utama and successfully expanded it to 8 branches in Kelang until 1998. After rebranding 99 Market to 99 Speedmart in 2000, the company expanded with the opening of a new store in Batu Belah, Kelang, with the aim of adding more branches in the future. It also addresses something outside of rebranding activities and involved the presentation of new methodologies inside as well as outside the store to improve store visibility and shopping convenience. By using the slogan of near and safe or dekat lagi murah in Malay, 99 Speedmart is getting good response from the locals since its inception. 99 Speedmart has now grown from a mini market to the largest mini market retail chain in Malaysia. Vietnam is a long near country with an S-shaped outline. It is located in Southeast Asia on the eastern edge of the Indochina Peninsula. China to the north and Laos and Cambodia to the west are its neighbors. To the east and south in the South China Sea, the Annam Cordillera covers most of Vietnam's western side, while the east is dominated by a 1,000 miles coastline. Most Vietnamese people live in the countryside, mainly in the river delta regions of the north and south. Recently, though, people have begun to move to the main cities of Ho Chi Minh and Hanoi. Vietnam is a socialist state governed by the Communist Party of Vietnam. A president chosen by the National Assembly is head of state and commander of their armed forces, and appointed prime minister runs the government. Australia is the only country in the world that covers an entire continent, although it is rich in natural resources and has a lot of fertile lands. More than one-third of Australia is desert. Australia is one of the world's most ethnically diverse nations. Nearly a quarter of the people who live in Australia were born in other countries. They come from the United Kingdom and other European countries, but also China, Vietnam, North Africa, and the Middle East.
For Australia, since there is high demand for convenience store, it considered as an opportunity for foreign company. There seems no slowdown for our 8.4 billion accommodation area, and that is as per the most recent state of the industry report. Proceed to preliminary and test new item and administration to guarantee that what we are offering is what client needs. This proceeded with interest for comfort. More modest food and drink retailer need to contemplate how they are meeting this client need. Australia have high risk issue regarding natural disaster and environment. Risk appraisal gives significant data to deciding the need to change environment or adjust the board way to deal with alleviate change. The critical danger to the Australian climate incorporate the tension established by environmental change, land use change, retro-surrounding fracture, and obstructive species. Solid proof exists that the environment is changing at a rate remarkable in the land record. Environmental change presents genuine danger to Australian populace, economy, and climate. Without solid activity to lessen ozone-harming substance discharge, the world is probably going to warm by 4 Celsius. For Australia, this would mean temperature ascents of 3 to 5 Celsius in waterfront region and 4 to 6 Celsius inland. Normal precipitation in southern Australia is projected to diminish with a logical expansion and dry spell recurrence and seriousness. There is an investment opportunity in Vietnam that can be considered, which is transformation and investment. Vietnam has a very large population that is consistently developing. There are just about 100 million individuals living in the country. Alternately, there are around 2,000 general stores spread all through the country. Vietnam has exceptionally enormous populace that is consistently developing. Vietnam has likewise that approach working with unfamiliar venture. In Korea, general stores are not permitted to open inside 15 m of another, yet in Vietnam there is no such limitation. In Vietnam, there is a thing that need to be considered regarding bribery and corruption issue. Corruption practices are far and wide in Vietnam. Corruption is especially common according to framework project, custom strategy and land freedom. Anybody occupied with business in Vietnam might experience and basically ought to get ready for the difficulties of debasement in some structure. Practices like assistant installment, payoff, and giving and getting costly gift to foster business connection are as yet normal. There is additionally almost no legal freedom in Vietnam, and development state an issue in the court framework. There is likewise little oversight of resource, and analytical news coverage is restricted by media control. The party leadership and government have openly dedicated to tending to debasement. They have made various substantial moves, including taking on and further developing enemy of debasement law, creating hostile and development technique, fortifying pertinent organization, diminishing administration, and valuable open door for debasement, and confirming the UN Convention Against Corruption. Vietnam score on Transparency International 2020 Corruption Perception Index, in any case, was down one highlight 37 out of 100, putting Vietnam to 104 out of 180 nation and region.
Compare between these two countries, which are Vietnam and Australia, we are using country comparison grid. Country comparison grid is information that been placed into three categories of variables, which are acceptable or unacceptable, written, and risk. Our company assigns value and weight to other variables so that it ranks each country according to the relative importance of attributes to the company, which are for return, we specify into size of investment, direct cost, tax rate, market size, and market share. For risk, we specify into exchange problems, political instability, corruption index, and natural disaster. Based on the country comparison grid above, we can analyze that Vietnam has high return, which calculated at 14 points, and also high risk, which calculated at 14 points also. The most risky variable in Vietnam are political instability and corruption index. On top of that, variable that contributed the most in terms of return is size of investment. On the other hand, for Australia, this country has high return and low risk. The return for this country is noticeably higher than Vietnam's, which calculated at 17 points. Total risk for Australia is just at 9 points. This is remarkably low compared to Vietnam. Moreover, variables that contributed the most for return in this country are market size and market share, while variables that contributes the most for risk is natural disaster. To conclude, based on this country comparison grid, Australia is preferable choice compared to Vietnam because this country has high return and low risk, whereas Vietnam has high return and high risk.
Now, let's proceed with limitation of problem of analysis. While we did a research for these two countries, which is Vietnam and Australia, we found that there was some possible limitation to this research. And among the limitations faced by this research is a lack of past studies and inaccurate information. The first limitation or problem of analysis is lack of past studies. To get the desired result, we need to find the previous research to be a reference. Although there is still some previous research, it is not enough to support this study. For example, when we want to find a previous research on opportunities and risks in Vietnam and Australia, not much could be obtained, and this has made the information obtained for this research limited. With the lack of previous research, we are unable to provide a solid evidence to make a comparison between Vietnam and Australia. The next limitation is inaccurate information. Apart from using previous research as a reference, we also search information from the internet. However, it is not easy because not all the websites that have the desired information can be accessed. Some websites charge a fee to access it and get information in it. There are also websites that limit their reach to a certain people, such as members of organization. Therefore, we only find and use the information available in the internet that can be used by everyone, and some of data may lead to inaccurate information.
Moving on to the conclusion. In conclusion, opportunity and risk management is an important element to improve a business. Opportunity can directly give benefit to the company, while risk will directly and indirectly affecting the company. The main reason for identifying the two elements is to make sure that the company to act on the opportunity and search for the way to overcome the risk. However, the company needs to handle both opportunity and risk very well to successfully inserting a new market. It is also the main element that affecting the company growth in the market. Next, we will be looking at the recommendation. There are a few recommendations to improve the way of managing the risk for the business. Firstly, since the identification of risk has been made, the organization should consider on risk analysis and evaluation. Once the risk already been identified and take note, the company must look into weigh the consequences of the risk. From the process, we can see that we need to understand the nature of the risk that might affecting the goals and the objective of the company. The last one is, the company have to take a proper action to overcome the risk. It is because the company have to stay strong in a new market as they are trying to merging in a new country. That's all from us. Thank you.